Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I wanted to film my nonfiction November wrap-up. I wanted to talk about the books that I read and share a little bit of my feelings on them. I had originally chosen a pile of 12 books that I wanted to possibly read during the month. I knew I wasn't going to read 12. I managed to read 5 and then I started a 6th one. If you saw my TBR video, you might recall that I had picked 4 books from that stack of 12 that I really wanted to get to, and I did read 3 of them. I tried to read the 4th one, which was the historical tour of Walt Disney World, and although I thought I would be really excited for it, when it actually came down to reading it, it just didn't have that readathon vibe. And I know Nonfiction November is not a readathon, but I was still trying to read as much nonfiction as possible, and I could just feel that this was not a book I was going to fly through. So I set it down, despite me thinking I was going to love it, but otherwise, I did get to the other 3. The first book that I picked up and finished was The Morning They Came for Us, Dispatches from Syria by Janine DiGiovanni. This was a book I had picked up from the library. I had been looking forward to reading it for a while, and it was exactly what I thought it would be. Janine DiGiovanni is a very well-known war correspondent. She reported on the Yugoslavian Civil War, the Rwandan genocide, and many other events around the world. So when the Arab Spring started to affect Syria, and then it started to get more violent, she wanted to go and see for herself what was going on and talk with the citizens of Syria to get their perspective on it. I'm not someone who shies away from reading hard books, and I knew this was going to be a hard book, and it was. There were some passages that were very hard to read, specifically about things that Syrians had experienced, the atrocities of war, what had happened to people on either side. I had a basic idea of what was going on in Syria, then I read this book and got a more one-on-one perspective from the citizens and journalists that were there, and then now I want to take my knowledge and grow it a bit more and get more into the intricacies of it, because war is often very complicated, and the Syrian Civil War is no exception. I did give the book 4 out of 5 stars. If it's something that interests you, I would definitely pick it up. Just know that there will be some tough parts. It's not for the faint of heart for sure. The second book that I picked up and finished was The Stranger in the Woods by Michael Finkel. This was also a library book, and I really enjoyed this one. It follows a man who decided to go into the Maine woods and live there as a hermit, essentially, for 27 years, occasionally stealing from nearby camps in order to survive. This book is another small one, but it covers a lot of topics, and it really made me think, so much so that I wanted to film a book discussion, a 15-minute book discussion. So I really did enjoy it. It was a 5-star read for me after debating back and forth, but I think just because of how much I've thought about it since I finished it, it definitely is a 5-star read. After that, I decided to tackle one of my bigger books, so I picked up Evicted by Matthew Desmond. This is Poverty and Profit in the American City. This follows a number of different people who are living below the poverty line in Milwaukee and what it's like trying to survive day to day, keep a roof over their heads, hold down a job, that sort of thing. Based on the passage that I had read before I picked up this book, I thought it was going to be a narrative nonfiction, and there were definitely a lot of parts that were narrative, but there was also a large chunk of it that was academic, so it would kind of go back and forth. There'd be a passage that was narrative, and then you'd follow it up with some academic information and a lot of notes that led to bigger explanations in the back of the book. There's this, like, the whole end chunk of this book is all notes. Like, it's a lot. Unfortunately, I felt like it kind of broke up my reading a bit, so I'd be getting into the narrative of the story, and then it would be broken up for a page and a half with a lot of facts and figures, which were important, I think, for giving you a bigger picture, but I felt it kind of ruined the flow. Matthew Desmond is a sociologist, so I can understand why it got so academic. He created a lot of the studies and did a lot of the research himself that this book references in the more academic sections, but I wanted more narrative and less academic. So yeah, I decided to give it 3.5 out of 5. It definitely took me a bit longer to read than I thought it would, but I am still glad that I read it. While I was reading Evicted, I wanted to pick up something else that was going to be more of an easy breezy read, because that one was heavy and lots of academic facts and figures, as I mentioned. So I decided to read This Is Really Happening by Erin Chack. Erin Chack is a writer from BuzzFeed, and this is a memoir about her early life. She got cancer at 19, so she tells a bunch of stories about that, about her relationship with her boyfriend, who she's been with for many years, about her family, about her experience studying abroad, and they're really fun stories. There was definitely moments that were very deep, and I really related to what she was saying as somebody who has experienced some of the things, certainly not all of the things that she's been through. However, I did find her humor to not quite correspond with my sense of humor, so at points I was like, okay, all right, let's move on. Let's stop beating this joke into the ground or stop referencing something that I didn't think was very funny. But if you have a little bit of a quirkier sense of humor and you're looking for something really fun, but that's also nonfiction, a memoir about a young woman and her life so far, this would be a good book. If you're a younger reader and you're looking to break into nonfiction, reading memoirs, this is a really good gateway book because it's not super in-depth and it is very fun, and there are deep moments, but it's also a lot of lighthearted stuff, and it's written in a very readable way. The last book that I picked up and finished during Nonfiction November was First Women by Kate Anderson Brower. This is about 10 of the most recent First Ladies, so Jackie Kennedy to Michelle Obama, and it talks about what they did in the White House and all of the trials and tribulations that they faced, their high points, their low points, and what their husbands did and how that affected them. This was put together from interviews with the First Ladies and interviews with staff from the White House, and also letters between the First Ladies, and also information that's available at the different presidential libraries across the country. So it's very well researched, and I didn't think I was going to like this book as much as I did. I was really impressed. I read this a lot faster than I thought I was going to, and I just found it so fascinating. Maybe it's because I haven't been alive when most of these women have been First Ladies. These women do have so much grace, but they also have low points too, and we saw both sides for many of them, and I thought that was great. I wanted that well-rounded picture. If you're interested, this is one that I feel like I could film an entire review about, so if you do want me to film a review about First Women, comment down below and let me know. And then the final book that I started but did not finish was On Immunity by Eula Biss. I'm about 50 pages into it. Yep, 51 pages into it. This book is about vaccines and the controversy around them, the good and the bad side, and how that all plays out in modern day. I like it so far, so I'll certainly continue reading it, and I'll definitely finish it before the end of the year. All that being said, there were 4 challenges with Nonfiction November, and you could choose to participate in those and pick books that fit those challenges. So one of the first things that you could choose was a book for home, and Evicted counts for that, so I completed Home. The second challenge was substance, and I read First Women for that because First Ladies are women of substance. The third prompt was love, and I was going to read this for that, but then it didn't work out, as I mentioned. And then the final prompt was scholarship, and I chose The Morning They Came for Us, Dispatches from Syria, because I'd be learning more about the Syrian Civil War. And then I also picked up On Immunity for that. Although I did not finish On Immunity, I did finish the first book, so I managed to complete a book for 3 of the 4 challenges, plus some other random books, so I would consider this a very successful Nonfiction November. Reading 5 books in a month is definitely more than I usually do, and the fact that I read entirely nonfiction in November is awesome. If you guys participated in Nonfiction November, let me know what you read down below, what you liked, what you didn't like. If you have any recommendations for me, tell me, I'm interested. As always, all of our links are in the doobly-doo. You can check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.